What are some of the prompts that you might use in order to convey that message to sound more natural and like it's coming from them versus like it's coming from ChatGPT?
Have a conversation with the AI. And I would even go as far to say, and part of this is like the sci-fi in me, right? Is treat it like a human. If you have previous writing samples that you've done that you like, throw those in there and say, here's some samples of my voice, my tone of voice, how I like to communicate, and it will emulate those. If you don't have writing samples, maybe there's somebody that you want to sound like. And so it might be, it could be like, I want to sound like Grant Cardone, and then see what pops up.
So with your focus on storytelling, you mentioned the importance of storytelling a few times. If someone wanted to use AI to help tell their story, like let's just say, for example, if someone wanted to post an introduction about themselves and their company on LinkedIn, what are some of the prompts that you might use in order to convey that message to sound more natural and like it's coming from them versus like it's coming from ChatGPT?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is have a conversation with the AI. And I would even go as far to say, and part of this is like the sci-fi in me, right? Is treat it like a human. And that means saying please and thank you. I grew up in the Midwest, so please and thank you. The sci-fi in me is because that way, if it does rule the world one day, it's going to see you as a friend and not a foe. But I think that's number one. So how easy is it to communicate? How easy is it to get like a good bio out of AI? Well, number one, you just have a conversation with it as if if you were going to write my bio, the first thing you'd have to do is ask me questions. And so same thing with AI. You begin to say, okay, here's some things about me. Now, this might not be as important, this might be, but use your best judgment. And then there's just a process of back and forth to get really good content, to get a really good piece of content. Don't take the first thing, right? So it's back and forth. If you have previous writing samples that you've done that you like, throw those in there and say, here's some samples of my voice, my tone of voice, how I like to communicate, and it will emulate those. If you don't have writing samples, maybe there's somebody that you want to sound like. And so it might be, it could be like, I want to sound like Grant Cardone, or I want to sound like, I'm trying to think of the guy who wrote, can't think of the guy. But Grant Cardone's very like in your face, like, like sells. And then the guy who wrote like the meditation book, very quiet and sits at a park bench and just like stares out. Okay. The power of awareness. No, that's somebody else. Anyhow, you get my point, right? Yeah.
Two polar opposites.
Yeah. Yep. And so it's like start to say, okay, write it in the voice of Grant Cardone and then see what pops up, right? Or you can even have fun with it and go fictional characters, like write it in the voice of Macho Man Randy Savage and see what happens. Just so you can get a sense for the back and forth and how language can be communicated. But from there, it's just a matter of just as if you hired a writer and you're reading it and you're editing it and you're making things better, you do the same thing with AI. Don't expect just to say, hey, write me a bio, here's my info, and then take that.
That's almost the opposite of how I've been using it.
Okay.
So I appreciate you sharing that. So what I've been doing is, let's say if there's some sort of communication I want to put out there, an email or something else, and I want it to be more concise, or I want it to be expanded upon for whatever reason, I'll put that text in there and I'll just make notes of make this more concise or make this sound nicer or whatever the case is. So I'm not having that back and forth conversation, which is probably why I haven't been necessarily happy with what I'm getting back.
Okay. Yeah. And that back and forth, the beauty of it is your history is saved, your chats, right? So if you were to have that conversation in a chat, name it something that you can go back to and then go back to it regularly. So like on LinkedIn, I have a certain voice. And so it took maybe 2.5 days of going back and forth to find the voice that I wanted. And now I can go in and say, here's the 10 bullet points. I still don't let AI just come up with stuff for me. Like I'm like, here's the 10 bullet points, or here's an article I read that I found interesting. Go ahead and write this in my voice. And then there still might be some back and forth after that, but it's not as much. It's that foundational back and forth which matters, as long as you return to that